Welcome to yet another episode of Real Crimes. So today we are talking about a crime that happened in Africa, and part of it happened in Australia. So in 2014, a lady called Nola was married. I hope I'm getting the name correct. Nola, Noela. So she was married and she had 5 children. And then her husband suddenly died. This was in Burundi. So because of the conflict that was happening there, her husband got caught up and he died. So she decided to flee to Australia, to relocate to Australia with her 5 children. Yes, 5 children. She relocated to Australia as a refugee and she was settling in well, but she did not speak any English. However, her children settled in well. She put them in a good school, and her social worker who was helping her settling down was very kind to her and helping her with all her needs to make sure that she's comfortable and she's well settled. So she would visit the offices of the social worker every now and again to find out what needs to be done and if she has any questions, and where she feels lost, she would go and sit down with the social worker and talk to the social worker. But like I said, she didn't speak any English, so she only spoke Swahili, and they had to find her a translator every now and again. But it so happened that one day while she was visiting her social worker, there was Kalala. Kalala was also a refugee from Congo. Okay? Remember, this is 2014, and this guy was coming from Congo. He already spoke some English and he also spoke some Swahili. So, the social worker decided, well, Mr. Kalala, you are going to be our translator. Welcome development. Anyway, as Kalala was also helping Nola to settle down, because Kalala had come earlier into Melbourne, Australia. So he knew his way around more than Nola. So he started helping her to settle down also with the translation and everything. And somewhere along the line, there was some spark. And the two became lovers. Okay? Kalala said he had fled to Australia from his country, Congo, when there was an attack on his village, and the attack had killed his wife and his son. And so he was a widower and she was a widow. And yeah, they were good together. Kalala was a very kind man, according to Nola. He was very kind, very caring, and a good provider. And he really knew how to take care of her and the children. So time went by and they were dating and everything was going well. And he popped the question and she said yes. Who wouldn't? I mean, the man is a good provider. The man loves her children. The man is taking good care of her and he's helping her to settle down in a foreign country. She's finally found somebody who speaks her language other than her children. So yeah, she said yes. They got married. Okay, things were going fine. Kalala worked as a forklifter operator in a warehouse. So he had some good money there. And he was providing very well for this family. And he also didn't have family back home. So this was his whole family. So whatever he was making was for this family. He didn't have anybody to take care of back home. Okay, so they start living together and things are going well. The honeymoon phase, everything. Then one day, boom, Kalala changes. He starts resembling some bad traits like violence, verbal abusive, the kind of thing. And Nola notices that and she's not comfortable with that because her late husband was none of those things. And this is not the man that she knew. This was not the man she had married. She had married this kind, gentle, loving, caring man. But suddenly he would come home angry and he would start shouting at her, verbally abuse her, physical abuse her in front of the children, and he would then calm down and say that it was the trauma from what he had witnessed in his country. Those things kept coming back, and he would get angry. And she would understand and forgive him. Yes, she would say, oh, well, I understand. It's your past, you know, it's still kind of fresh, and. Anyway, this continues. Like it's a roller coaster. One day he's happy, the next day he's angry. And she came to a point where she had just accepted that this is my life, this is the man I'm married to. It's okay. It's okay. You know, when he's happy, I'm happy. Everybody's happy. When he's angry, everybody should just duck and dive. They should go under the covers. Make sure, give him his space, and, you know, kind of walk on eggshells. Like, you don't want to trigger anything. You don't want to make him angry. You don't want to do this. So it was uncomfortable for the children. It was uncomfortable for her, but she was already in it. And she decided she's not going to go out of this marriage, and she's not going to leave this man. She loves him. He's providing for her. He's taking care of her. He's taking care of her children. So what else would she want? No, a slap here and there would not hurt. That's what she thought. Anyway, let's go back a little. So Nola, growing up in Burundi, was raised by her stepmom. And that's the only mom she knew. And they were very close. So she would often call her stepmom and talk to her, thanks to technology. And also, she would send money. Her husband was that generous. Kalala was that generous. You know, he would give her money to send to her stepmom, to her family back home, like any normal African man would, right? Okay. So one day she gets a message from home that her stepmom is not well, and she's sending money to get her treated. And then a couple of days later, she gets a call that, no, actually, she's passed on. Ha, that's really sad. That's her mom. That's the woman she knew as a mom. So she had to go kumba ku Burundi, kunoviga amaivaki, right? She got to Burundi. Her husband was constantly calling her, checking on her. Are you okay? Have you arrived safely? How is the proceedings going? And you know, just being a husband, just being present as much as he was away. He was just being present. He was just being so supportive, and she was feeling loved, and she was feeling, you know, like, okay, I think this maybe kufa kwa mume wangu will fix our marriage somehow, because suddenly her husband was back. Okay, I could say her husband was back. The loving, caring man that she knew was back. So anyway, because Kumba Kwavo Kwana Nola was a very small house, she decided she was going to stay in a hotel. The husband decided, okay, I'm going to put you up in a hotel. I don't want you to inconvenience Kumba by moving them out of their rooms and what. So he booked her into a hotel before she left. So when she went for the funeral, she checked into the hotel, and then she went to Kumba, and the following day the burial was done and everything, and she was super tired from traveling, from attending the funeral, and she was drained and she was emotionally messed up. So she got back to her hotel room after the funeral, and her husband called again, checking on her. He is that caring. So he's asking her, so how was your day? How did the proceedings go? Mama, you know, that kind of talk. And she's feeling, oh my God, you know, my mom did not die in vain, you know, my husband is back, you know, things are happening and everything. But also, Nola had come to a point in her life where she could not make decisions for herself. She was so used to him, that is Kalala, making decisions for her and telling her what to do, and she would just say, okay, and do it, even when he was away. So on that night, he asked her, what are you doing? She said she had just come back from the funeral. She was going to take a bath and then crawl into bed. She really needed the rest. And he said to her, no, honey, take a walk outside the hotel, see the city, you know, catch some air, you know, just clear your head. Because Nola was so used to being told what to do, she said, yes, sir. She did exactly that. So she decides to take a shower, and then she gets dressed and she goes out to take a walk like the sweet wife that she is, like the obedient wife. Yeah. She goes outside to take a walk. So while she's walking, she sees a man walking towards her, like charging towards her. And she's all confused because suddenly this man stops right in front of her and he pulls out a gun. And he told her to go into the car, which she did. So in her head, she said, she thought, oh, okay, there must be a mistake somewhere because I just got into this country. Obviously, nobody knows that I'm around and I have not offended anybody around here. So there must be a mistake somewhere. So these guys, they made her to put her head on the seat, and they started driving with her. They drove for what she thought was like 40 minutes. Basically, they kidnapped her. So they took her to this place and she didn't know where she was. When they got to the place, they set her there, they tied her and they left her there. And one of them said to her, what exactly did you do to this man? Why does he want you dead? And she's confused again. Like, who? What man? Who wants me dead? Like, where and how? You know, she's confused. And she's asking these people, like, are you sure they want me dead? And who is this person? And one of the kidnappers said, your husband. Oh, before they asked her, what did you do to this man? They actually called him and told him that they got her. She's all tied up. She's all tagged nicely, neatly tucked away in a hidden place. Nobody will find her. And he just said, okay, go ahead with the plan. And then, so when they asked her, like, what did you do to this man? She was confused. And then eventually they told her, no, it's actually your husband who wants you dead. And she said, nah, there must be a mistake. He could never do that. That man is so loving. That man is so caring. That man has been checking on me every minute of the day, making sure I'm okay. There is no way he would want me dead. And these guys just had to prove the point. So they called him. They put the phone on speaker and spoke to their boss. And the voice on the other end was her husband's voice. So they said, again, sir, confirm, what should we do with her? And he said, kill her. Kill her. Urayai. Ha. And she's hearing that is her husband's voice. And then she starts panicking. She starts, hyperventilating. She can't breathe. She can't do anything. She's confused. Like, anyway, for a moment there, she didn't know what to do. And she was all confused. And a lot was happening, Eventually, these men said to her, you know what? We do not kill women and children. That's our policy. We don't kill women and children. We only kill men. So your husband has picked the wrong gang. We don't kill women. We don't kill children. We are going to let you go. But before we do that, we need to get more money from your husband, which they did. They would call him and tell him all sorts of stupid things, and he would send more money. And then they eventually told him, okay, we have done it. So they put her somewhere. They staged the whole thing, took photos and sent to him and said, yeah, it's done. And he sent them more money. And then they started blackmailing him. We have your recordings. We can actually get you arrested. You need to send us more money, which he did. Okay. And eventually when they thought, okay, I think we've gotten enough from him, they decided, okay, we're going to let her go. But they told her that they were not going to leave her at the hotel room. They were not going to take her to a place where she would be able to identify them. They would just drop her somewhere and she must just find her way. And also, they gave her all the recordings, the phone calls. They gave her a USB with all the recordings of the conversations they had with her husband from day one. Ha! What a nice bunch of thugs, right? And those are nice murderers, like really nice people. Anyway, so they went and they dropped off Nola somewhere, and she had to figure a way out of that place. In the meantime, her husband was telling all the people back in Melbourne that his wife had gone missing in Burundi, because he had actually spoken to her brother. Her brother, that is Nola's brother. Nola's brother went to the hotel room. He couldn't find her, but her stuff was all there and everything was there, and she never checked out of the hotel. And she called him to say, what's happening? Is she there? And then the husband said, no, she's not here. And so he told the husband that she's missing, and he needed money to hire a private investigator or something. And the husband seemed very concerned and very worried, and he sent the money instantly and said, please, please, please find my wife. I cannot do without her. Oh, by the way, Nola had already given this man 3 more children. Yes, 3 more children. So now she was a mother of 8. No, 8. Yeah, she was now a mother of 8 children. So, husband is back in Melbourne with the 8 children, and he's plotting the murder of their mother. Who does that? Anyway, the brother received the money and went to find this investigator. But before he could do that, Nola showed up at the hotel. And she told her brother everything that had happened. And she told him that he could not breathe a word to anybody. She called her pastor back in Melbourne, Australia, and told him everything. And the pastor was actually getting ready to go and conduct her funeral, because husband had told the whole congregation that his wife, who had been kidnapped in Burundi, had actually died. She had passed on. She had been bombed by the kidnappers. Yeah. So pastor was on his way, was getting ready to go and conduct a funeral service. And this deceased is busy talking to him and trying to convince him not to say anything and to continue with the funeral service. Yeah, which he did. Eventually, the pastor and his wife agreed that they were going to be part of this plot to get the men to confess and to be sentenced to whatever, to be brought to justice, basically. So they went to the funeral. He did conduct the funeral, and they also organized for flight tickets for Nola to come back into the country, which she did. And in February of 2015, Nola came back into the country, and then that was also a day before her funeral. So she got into the country and she settled into a hotel, and she was very vigilant to make sure nobody sees her, nobody that she knows sees her. And the pastor had people like protecting her and taking her to a hotel, and he was not seen anywhere near her also, because he didn't want to, like blow her cover. So it was like people that are total strangers that were told to go and pick her up from the airport, make sure she's settled in a hotel, and make sure that nobody sees her. In the evening, a driver picked up Nola and took her to her house. And when she got to the house, it was after 7 in the evening, and the husband was like walking people to their cars, like people that had come for the funeral. He was bidding them farewell and thanking them for coming to be with him at such a difficult time. And when the last visitors left, the husband went and sat outside. He didn't go inside the house. He just sat outside. And Nola saw that this was her chance. So she walked out of the car and went to the porch, where she found her husband sitting. When the husband saw her, he looked like he had seen a ghost. And then he walked towards her and tapped her and realized, no ghost, this is my wife. And he started apologizing, and he started like screaming and saying things like he didn't mean to, he didn't even know what was going on and why he had decided to do that. It was the devil's work, and it was an evil plan that was influenced by the devil. He would never do, he would never do that to her, and blah, blah, blah. So to her, he did confess, and he did say that he would have never done that to her. No, he said it wasn't his plan. It was the devil who was working, and what. He apologized and he admitted what he had done. Meanwhile, Nola had spoken to the police before she came to the house and showed them the evidence and everything. So the police were on standby. She called the police. The police came to take him. This time, there was no forgiving. She was not about to forgive him again. She had forgiven him for a long time, from 2005 all the way to 2015. She was just forgiving him. This time she was not about to forgive him. So the police came, they picked him up. They took him to a police station to take his statement. And guess what? He denied it. Yeah. Andina chandinotomboziya, handikunyeberwa, handina chandakamboita. It wasn't me. I didn't do anything. Until the police produced the voice recordings of him calling the gang and the negotiations that went between them, everything, until the time he was told that it was done. That's when he said, yeah, okay, that was me. But it wasn't my plan. It was the devil. Guys, don't lie. Don't lie for the devil. I think there will come a point when even the devil say, no, that wasn't me. That was all you. So anyway, he told the police that it was the plan of the devil. He was just being used. He didn't, blah, blah, da, 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 the lies. Yeah. And he asked Nola to forgive him, and she said no, she wasn't going to forgive him. She wasn't going to drop any charges, because now if he failed to get her there, who knows what he's going to plan again. He would definitely plan something. And when he admitted that it was him, they asked him also why he did that. First of all, it was the devil. And then secondly, it was because he was scared that she was going to leave him. He was scared that she was so beautiful, she could get any man, a rich man, and any man that she wanted. So he was scared that she would leave. Basically, he was an insecure person. So if I can't have you, no one can have you, kind of thing, So anyway, yeah. He was charged, and he went through the courts and everything, and his case was tried, and yeah, he was found guilty. What do they call it? Inciting murder, something like that. Yeah, he was definitely found guilty because there was a lot of evidence, and yeah, there was also his confession to go by, and yeah, he was sentenced to quite a number of years in prison. I think it was 9 years in prison for that. And yeah, he was out of Nola's life. She divorced him while he was in prison, but it took her a long time to actually come to a point where she was like comfortable with herself. Even like when she sees a man looking at her, she's thinking, oh my God, did he send this one? She was scared. And also she had to go through a lot of counseling, this post-traumatic stress and whatever that was she was going through. So she had to go through a lot of counseling for that. And also she would constantly hear his voice saying, kill her. She would have nightmares. She would all sorts of things. But yeah, she is there. She's in Melbourne. Her kids are grown and she's taking care of her kids by herself. She's obviously divorced this man and she's now just focusing on herself and the kids. And according to Nola, she doesn't see herself getting married. She's a mom of 8. 5 from her first marriage and 3 from Kalala, the second marriage. And she says she doesn't see herself getting married, but she's now in a better space and yeah, she is watching her kids grow. They really have grown, and yeah, that's Kalala for you. He plotted to get his own wife killed because of insecurities. Anyway, guys, yeah, so that's the story of the day, and this is definitely a documented crime that was done, and there was time to be paid. Yeah, you do the crime, you do the time. So yeah, basically that is that. I hope you guys have a good day, and please do take care of yourselves out there. Make right decisions and don't find yourselves wanting. Don't find yourselves in trouble. Be blessed. Goodbye.